Shalom Uvracha. On Motzei Shabbos next week, we're going to be marking, celebrating the day of Lag BaOmer. Over the past years, I would say the last few decades, Lag BaOmer has become an event of celebrating the Torah Kabbalah, the idea of a world of Kabbalism, of the secrets of Torah, whether the Zohar or the Arizal or the entire corpus of Kabbalah. And I'd like to reflect briefly on why. What is the meaning behind this evolution? It's not just about Lag BaOmer. During the year 2, ideas from Kabbalah have very much penetrated our everyday world. We speak a language which is permeated by ideas of Kabbalah, which didn't used to be. And what is the meaning of this development of this process? So in the past, our understanding of Torah and our understanding of the connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu was very much predicated on an idea of rationalism. It was the Rambam, perhaps more than anybody else, who emphasized the centrality of rational thought to Torah and to our connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Rambam, indeed, at the beginning of Moreh Nevuchim, mentions that the Tzelem Elokim, every human being, is created in the divine image. Says the Rambam, what is that divine image? It's our capacity for rational thought. It's the seichel. That is where there's something elevated, something godly about the human being. It's in his seichel. And that was very much the model that dominated Jewish thinking for many centuries. However, over time, the ideas from the Kabbalistic world began to enter. That happened through Chassidus, on the one hand, the development and the popularity of Hasidism, and at the same time, also by others, Rabbanim and very prominent figures, who translated the ideas of Kabbalah into an everyday language that could be understood even by the layman, and indeed even with people who speak with Kabbalistic ideas without being conscious of their origins. And these were figures like Rav Kook, for example, Rav Moshe Shapira in our generation, Zechrenu Livracha, Rav Hutner, who was to some degree Rav Moshe Shapira's Rebbe, and other figures like Rav Shimshon Pinchas, and many others. And they've done a work of translation, of enabling even laymen who don't know the works of Kabbalah and are unfamiliar with a specific language of the Kabbalah to nevertheless be familiar with Kabbalistic ideas. And rather than the rationalism that was so dominant in the times of the Rambam and the Rishonim, and of course later on too, the Kabbalah predicates or emphasizes relationships. Relationships between one person and his fellow, but also understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in terms of relationships. And while the Rambam writes that the Tzelem Elokim is rational thought, the Arizal implies that the Tzelem Elokim is in fact our capacity for relationships. Where are we the most godly? We're godly in our relationships. And perhaps it's not for nothing. Perhaps there's deep meaning in this evolutionary process from a place of strong rationalism to a place that gives more space and more emphasis on relationships. During many centuries of Galus, of exile, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was distant from us. Megillat Eicha, the Skrada Veicha, which is the book of our exile, is filled with distance, with Hashem being distant from us. Ki rachok mimeni, Hashem is distant from me, distant from us. And perhaps, as the time of redemption nears today, we have the tremendous merit of living upon our ancestral homeland, the promised land promised by Hashem to Avraham Avinu. It's a track towards redemption. We're going through difficult times right now, and we don't know how they fit into the great scheme, but somehow we know that they do, towards redemption. Perhaps that going towards redemption also goes with this complementary, with this dual track that on the one hand maintains rational thought. We don't abandon rationalism, but we merge together with it an emphasis on the relationship aspect. When we read the Psukim, Ahavti eschem amar Hashem, So the Rambam would say, Ahavti eschem doesn't mean that Hashem loves us in a literal sense, but rather He behaves to us as if He loves. And the Mekubalim will say, no, Hashem actually loves us. He doesn't necessarily experience love the same way as we do because He isn't human. And nevertheless, the best way of understanding Hashem and us and our connection is with the idea of love. It's a different perspective on how to understand Torah and the connection with Hashem. And perhaps it's with this perspective that we step forward towards the final redemption that we want to come to, towards the ultimate revelation of the closeness, of the intimacy between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Jewish people. And we daven, and maybe Lag BaOmer is a special time in which we can pray, beseech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He should bring us one step, many steps, closer to that ultimate destiny, that we should see Hashem's revelation in the world and experience His closeness, His warmth, and His presence. We should all have a wonderful Shabbos.